Welcome, everyone, to the Union Federation podcast here on the Fandom Podcast Network, where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville here on the Fandom Podcast Network. And in this episode, we are discussing Star Trek PICARD, Season 3, Episode 10, The Last Generation. But first, we have a spoiler alert. That's right. Captain Shaw says, spoiler alert, guys. As I said, we are discussing Season 3, Episode 10, the series finale of Star Trek PICARD. Oh, it was wonderful, and I cannot wait to share it with the rest of our crew members here. First of all, I'd like to welcome my brother from another mother, and of course, the co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Kyle Wagner. What is up, brother?
Well, first of all, now that I'm off Planet Taxium for at least another year, I just want to say swords are fun, and I plan to Stashwick the hell out of this podcast.
Nice. Well done. Well done. All right. And welcome with us, as always, she science is the place up. She's also the Oracle here. She knows stuff. Haley Starr, what's up? How are you?
Hello. Where do you want me to be? Do you want me to be at con? Do you want me to be at home? I kind of know that. I know a little bit of sciencey things.
We just brought our cook up, so he's not in the kitchen. I don't know. We need some lunch up here while we're doing this. How do you feel?
I mean, all you're going to get is baked goods. I'm sorry. That's really all I'm good at.
Yeah. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Kevin, wait. No, come on. It's a reunion show, which means she needs to be in her favorite place. We need to give her the weapons.
Oh, that's right. The pew button. She needs to be there.
it has been a long time, and a lot of things have really happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've been feeling rather emotional lately with the Star Trek and the reunion, so I need someone to talk to about this. Get really deep inside my thoughts. Let's welcome back Counselor Amy Nelson. What's up?
Hello. Are you still talking? I think your time is over.
Oh, I need more.
It's only an extra hour past the session. I mean, he's still probably within his regional limit.
Well, at least we didn't see the counselor start snoring, so there we go.
This is true.
Welcome back, Amy. I know you're busy over there at the BQN. What's happening over there?
Oh my gosh. Doing live shows was insane. A lot of work, but so much fun. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., we discussed each episode live, had people watching us and commenting. It just was so much fun. And in credit to Union Fed for giving me that push to go live.
That's good. Glad that could. You guys are killing it over there, and the chat's great. And I can feel the anticipation when a new Trek is coming up, and when your group gets together and just starts, oh my god. Okay. First of all, reminder: we are talking series finale, The Last Generation. Now, before we go any further, Haley, Amy, you weren't here last week. Kyle and I were. We want to get your thoughts on the last episode, Vox, where we actually get the Enterprise D shown. And by the way, real quick, I did want to show the new poster that has come out since then. The Last Generation. Love that picture there. That is awesome. Mm-hmm. Enterprise D is back. Jordy's been fixing it up. Amy, I'm going to start with you here. What was your thoughts?
Okay, my very first thought when I saw the beauty of the D, I had guilt for every ship that I said, oh yeah, that's good. Like the Prodigy ship or the Cerritos. Oh yeah, that's a good ship. I love that ship. No. This is my ship. I will never say another ship is beautiful. This is the one for me. It brought back all the feelings, the 30 years, the 7 seasons, the movie generations. Like that is my home. And yes, we need the carpet. I don't know if you saw the little tweet from Terry Metalis with this wanted for this maroon carpet, just so, all the feels, the Lacars, wonderful. Akuda did a great job again and just bringing all those set pieces back. It was coming home. And we got an introduction to each character every week. We brought in someone new, and finally we get the last character, the Enterprise D.
It is definitely a character. I'm so happy, Haley, that it wasn't still on Viridian 3 and turned into some house, you know.
Yeah.
Geordi said, "Project."
Yeah. At first, when we find out that Geordi is the commandant and he's taking care of the Fleet Museum, I thought that was really, really strange. But then when they are going in and they're going into it, and I'm like, what is it going to be? What are they going to pick? What is this? What ship could they use that's not going to be connected? It's old. And I was so surprised and floored. And it makes complete sense that Geordi would be in charge of the Fleet Museum to bring this ship back, and I was sobbing like a little child because it just made everything in me just feel so much like I was back watching TNG, and to see that, and again, it was unexpected. I maybe somewhere in my subconscious, I thought, oh, they're going to bring back the D. Of course they would have to, right? Because we've had everything else. But a part of me really wasn't expecting it. I was thinking something completely different. And I just thought it was so wonderful just to see everything again. And yeah.
Okay, I got a question.
So much. I was really overwhelmed. So
I got a question for you, Haley
Mhm.
and Amy. I admitted to crying, being a grown-up man baby. Kyle did not. He's dead inside. But I wanted to know if you guys teared up a little bit, Amy.
Oh, yeah. These last 2 episodes, my gosh, tearing up, seeing it, the memories, the feelings. But this last episode, it was ugly cry. Chin going, like sobs. And
Haley?
even on my rewatch. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Sobbing again.
I was watching it in my car during lunchtime and I was crying. What about you, Haley?
Yeah, lots of crying. And just that unexpected because you don't know exactly where it's going to go and whatnot. And so lots of crying, lots of crying. Chloe going,
Kyle, do you
"They're
do you
there.
still have your
It's
do you still
okay."
have your Kyle, do you still have your Borg heart? Is that why you didn't cry like we did? What's going on?
It's
Come on,
more
defend
like
yourself.
a change. It's more like a changeling heart, really. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. But I do have a question. I'm hoping the girls might know, because where do they keep the Roombas on the Enterprise bridge? Because I gotta think, they don't want to step on those vacuums as they're cleaning that beautiful carpet. I'm just wondering.
Well, when you pull out the chairs, that's where they are.
Oh,
There you
okay.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought it was kind of like the white uniforms from Discovery that just never seem to get stained.
Oh my
I think
God,
it just
right?
got like this repellent on it. So like we were down in Salt Lake, and my daughter and my brother got new shoes, and the store actually gave them spray that's supposed to keep your shoes from getting dirty, and you can use it on hats and hoodies, and it also is like
Wow.
a waterproof thing. So in my head, the carpet's just treated with this stuff, and it just kind of like there's maybe like little vacuums along like the corridors, like in the floor and like along the edges and stuff, and it just like all just kind of goes into a spot and it just sucks it away, and
So
it
what
just
you're
repels
saying,
it on. It's self-repelling carpet. It does not
Yeah.
stain.
No, so what you're saying, Haley, is in the future, science has scienced the shit out of Scotch Guard.
Yes.
Yes. Well played.
Yes.
Well played. All right, guys, we've got some news. Let's hit that. All right, guys, we have some news. Section 31, starring Michelle Yeoh, gets a movie order from Paramount. Yeoh will return as Emperor Philippa Georgiou in a Star Trek Discovery spin-off. Paramount Plus has ordered Section 31 as an original movie, not series, with Oscar winner Michelle Yeoh set to reprise her role, a character she played in Star Trek Discovery. In the film, Georgiou joins a secret division of Starfleet tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets and faces the sins of her past. The project will be written by Craig Sweeney and directed by Olatunde Osusami. I don't know if I got that right. I tried. A for effort. Both Discovery veterans. Quote, I'm beyond thrilled to return to my Star Trek family and to the role I've loved for so long, said Yo. Section 31 has been near and dear to my heart since I began the journey of playing Philippa, all the way back when the new golden age of Star Trek launched. To see her finally get her moment is a dream come true in a year that's shown me incredible power of never giving up on your dreams. We can't wait to share what's in store for you. And until then, live long and prosper, unless Emperor Giorgio decrees otherwise. All right, guys, I want to get your thoughts on this. We've kind of been about any Section 31. Maybe it was the way that, I don't know, Discovery kind of dived into it. You guys, I remember you, Amy, you're not excited about it. But we have Michelle Yeoh, just won an Oscar. Her character is awesome. We can agree with that. We love her in that. Not a series as we originally thought. What are your thoughts that looks like it's gonna come to Paramount Plus, not a theater thing, a movie? Are you excited? Amy, start with you.
Yeah, this I think just hits the spot perfectly. I really didn't want an entire series. Like, Section 31, is it needed? Do we really have to have it? It's this, underbelly of my utopia. So to have just a movie and of course to have Michelle Yeoh, like that's what I'm excited for. And so this little small bite is, I think, going to be exactly what the fandom needs, at least for me.
Underbelly of your utopia. I love that. That's great. Kyle, what are your thoughts on Section 31, the movie?
I think this is absolutely the perfect decision for Paramount Plus and for Star Trek. Obviously, you have maybe the hottest actress in Hollywood right now, Michelle Yeoh, coming off a movie that everybody seems to have universally speaks incredible of, winning the Oscar. I'm so happy for her because she's deserved this for a very long time. But what this does also is that it opens a whole new door for things on Paramount Plus, because everything with Paramount Plus now, for the most part, has been series. And to be able to do a full-length movie on this, I think opens up the door to a lot of possibilities to tap into other areas of Star Trek without committing to a series. And I think if this does well, which I think it will, because Michelle Yeoh is just red hot right now, and we love that character of Empress Felipe Giorgio. I think this is the way to go, because I don't think anybody was exactly thrilled with the idea of another series, especially a Section 31. But to do a movie event out of it with Michelle Yeoh and open up a whole new world of possibilities for other Star Trek films to go straight to Paramount Plus, this is a smart decision all the way around.
Haley, what's interesting about this, and it was teased in that little write-up that I did, was that Giorgio will face the demons of her past, specifically since we know where she's come from the alternate timeline, Dark Mirror universe version. She's done some horrible stuff, so that'll be interesting. But what are you excited?
Kind of. I mean, I'll watch it. Section 31 is not exactly my favorite thing about the Star Trek universe. And like Kyle and Amy said, I think it's fantastic that they decided to make it a movie rather than a full-length series or a 3-season series, that kind of stuff, because in a way, yeah, there's probably a lot of content that they could do, but at the same time, I feel like the stories would get repetitive and get kind of old really fast. So I like this idea of, hey, let's take this concept and let's just make this little movie about it, and then we're done, and we don't have to necessarily revisit it in an in-depth type of way. Because also, if Section 31 is like CIA and MI6 and all these secrety organizations, we don't necessarily want to show about it, because then it takes that away from it. Even though it's not even real, it takes away the mystery and the intrigue and the questioning of like, well, what are they doing and what's going on? I think little snippets here and there in an episode or something like that allude to Section 31 is totally fine, because it keeps that organization, that privacy and that secrecy, and we don't really acknowledge them and what they're doing but what they do is somewhat beneficial for Starfleet and all the planets that are part of it. So I like this idea of, okay, we're going to make a movie. I'm intrigued as to where it's going to go with her facing her demons, because I mean, I don't even know like where that could lead. I got nothing on it.
Yeah. Section 31 I thought was a risk when Deep Space Nine introduced it, but it was interesting because it opened up the man behind the curtain, so to speak. But I understand where you're coming from, Amy. It takes this utopia of Star Trek that we've been ingrained with so many years of where humanity should go and should end up, that there's these people doing the dirty jobs or doing dirty stuff to get stuff done. And to me, it was just another avenue to also introduce a Badmiral, as well. It felt like we were going to see a lot of that. But I'm glad that it's just a movie. And as you mentioned, Kyle, this is a big deal to have an actual feature-length film on Paramount Plus. That maybe might bring people to Paramount Plus, obviously subscriptions and stuff. But I wouldn't mind seeing more, not necessarily standalone films, but films that, like, if there's like some characters that we like that get shown guest stars, whether in a TV series like this situation with Discovery, and it seems like it might be popular, throw them in a film and see how it flies. So I like that idea. So Amy.
One thing that I just give Kurtzman all the credit for is that we are getting all types and being given us all different delivery systems. We've got our traditional series. We have short treks, which we love. It's this little bite, throw in some new content, but just itty bitty bites. And then we have now this feature film. I'm so excited. And I really do hope that we eventually get like theater films for Star Trek 4. We all know that. But like, we are getting so many different types of ways to view Star Trek. It only builds the fandom. And I think it's brilliant and it's long lasting.
That's a good point. Haley?
Well, it makes me think of this other TV show that I that I didn't grow up watching, but this other show that I watched had 5 seasons. It's The Last Kingdom. They actually just did a film to kind of follow up and is the end point, because they're based off of books. There's I think 10 or 12 books.
Is that
in
the
series.
one with the female lead that has to kind of like retake her lineage back or something? What was that?
It's not a female lead. So Alexander Draymond plays Uhtred, and it's fantastic. So it started on BBC America, and then Netflix took it, and Netflix did it. But they just released a film. So the 5 series kind of seasons go off of the first few books, and then they've made a film that was just released to kind of wrap up the rest of the books, but also kind of wrap up the stories of the rest of these characters, because in the end, I don't want to give it away. I'm not going to give it away. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. But it's fantastic. It's Vikings and it's very early England and all that. It's great.
Yeah.
But
that's cool. They wrapped it up with a movie. Yeah.
So I like this concept of maybe if we don't continue a series, if they determine, hey, let's make a little film made for television on our platform to kind of wrap up a character story that we feel is really important, or to wrap up something that we feel like, would be really beneficial and really great for the fans of a series. I think that's a really great way to tell a story without committing to more episodes or another season or a completely different show. So, this, I think, really is kind of the way of the future of having these short seasons and then maybe doing a film that just is released onto this platform as well, just to kind of wrap up the rest of the little stories that you would like to see, or however they do it.
I'm really curious how they're going to handle it. I think it's good. All right, guys, I'm going to tease another news topic here, but we're going to actually hit it later in the show for some obvious reasons. But the tease is Star Trek PICARD finale post-credit scene explained. Showrunner confirms big things to come. So I just want to mention that really quick. All right, guys, let's go ahead and you know what? Let's just look at a couple of these pictures here. How cool were these shots here? This is the
You're gonna make
original
me
crew
cry.
on the D, you know, and then we got the rest of the crew on here. I mean, just Kyle, do you feel like crying yet? Just going checking in with you there.
There's warm. There's warm flutter in my heart.
I'm gonna cry.
I'm also trying to be a gentleman and save all the Kleenex for the ladies. And you, Kevin.
Oh, there we go. All right, guys. Let's go ahead and let's get into the actual episode here of The Last Generation. All right, let's go ahead and get into the Admiral's Log. And Amy, since you are back, why don't you go ahead and read us off the Admiral's Log episode synopsis?
What a start to this episode. Federation President Anton Chekhov issues a planetary distress signal. Picard and the crew of the Enterprise find a Borg ship hiding in the clouds of Jupiter. Seven liberates the Titan from the assimilated crew and engages the fleet. Worf and Riker infiltrate the Borg ship while Picard plugs into the hive mind to rescue Jack from the Borg Queen's influence. The compromised fleet destroys space dock and Earth's planetary shields and are being targeted major cities. The Enterprise locates the beacon controlling the assimilated crew members and destroys it, and Picard succeeds in freeing Jack from the Queen, after which they escape as a cube explodes. With the Borg destroyed once and for all assimilated Starfleet personnel return to normal, and the Enterprise is returned to the Fleet Museum. A year later, the crew reminisce over drinks and a game of cards. Seven is promoted to captain of the Titan, which is rechristened the USS Enterprise G, with Raffi as the first officer and Jack as liaison to the captain. Jack receives a visit from Q, telling him that while Picard's trial has ended, his has just begun.
Okay, Amy, if you're gonna cry, I'm gonna cry. All right, let's hold off on that right now. Okay.
I can't even think about it. It's so emotional.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry. Returning the Enterprise D to the Fleet Museum. If I'm Geordi, I'm taking that out like a 57 Chevy and just cruising around like on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
You know, doing laps around Earth, going, woo! I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, he's gonna go planet to planet, picking up all his friends for a joyride, and then I'm sneaking it out. Let's go for a spin, and then taking it back.
I mean, he's the commandant. Like he's in charge. No one's gonna write him up for it.
Oh, guys. All right, guys. I want to get some first reactions here. I'm just gonna go and say one thing that I thought was a couple things that Kyle, you kind of teased it a little earlier there. Worf. They're fighting some Borg, and Riker goes, the whole time a phaser and you didn't use it? Swords are fun. And I love the line where Worf goes, and I'll make it a threesome. And Riker goes, do you hear yourself? I got some more stuff to get into, but I won't steal it all. Kyle, let's start with you, buddy. Your first reactions to this episode.
This episode had a lot of weight on it. It had a lot to live up to, and it's been a phenomenal season of Picard.
Question. I'm sorry. I need to interrupt you real quick. Did you rewatch it or did you only watch it once?
No, I rewatched it. I rewatched it right before we came on.
Okay, the reason why I ask is because you and I had a little discussion about it after you watched it for the first time, and you kind of were, there's a little things you were kind of about, so I'm kind of just wondering if it's changed or if you still feel the same way.
So I love all the moments in here. It gives me all the feels and all the moments I wanted from this series and from the finale. Obviously the ending is just completely just melts your heart. You watch it with them playing poker, everything in Guinan's place. All the moments between the characters are absolutely phenomenal. I still have, and I explained this to Kevin, there's a couple of things within this storyline, and as I told Kevin, maybe it's because it's the Borg, and I kind of feel like the Borg are a little played out at this point. It felt in ways, as far as that aspect of the story, a little anticlimactic, and I felt like it wrapped up with a pretty easy bow. There was no sense of like absolute peril here, like the Borg were just about, because you knew what was coming, and you know that in your head, but you still have a way to portray it where you actually have a feel like there's a sense that the Borg are going to come through, and you never really quite had that sense. And the other thing is, I'm sorry, Amy, I'm sorry, Haley, Starfleet is the stupidest military organization in the history of science fiction. Okay, 2 points, and you got, and I'll let it go. But one, the fact that you interconnect all your ships like a Borg cube, an enemy you fought multiple times. 2, you bring your entire fleet back to Earth. Yeah, I don't know if that was the wisest decision. You can't move Deep Space Nine in some of the stations, but yeah, you're bringing the majority of your fleet back to Earth, and leaving a lot of quadrants maybe not quite as protective as they should have been. When we know Starfleet knows they have a lot of enemies out there still. I mean, I understand there's the whole manipulation of what the changelings have done and everything like that, but you would still think somebody up there who is still human might be questioning this. But I mean, as far as the feel good moments, giving me all those amazing character moments, and that's why we watch Star Trek. It's for the characters we love. It knocked it out of the park. It was an absolute home run and gives you all the feels. It's just those couple of little things, and yes, I know I'm nitpicking, and you can scream and yell at me, but those were just 2 little things that stood out. That, like I said, they didn't take me completely out of the story, but they took me out of the story a little bit. But I will say this too, and I know we'll talk about it deeper, but that closing credit sequence had me smiling ear to ear, and that was that. I'm so excited about the possibilities that open, even though if on the Ready Room it was sidestepped every way but Friday before they wouldn't reveal anything. But no, it was a phenomenal episode and a phenomenal season.
Amy, Haley, actually, I think you put your hand up while Kyle was talking, like you needed to address something here. Let him have it. Come on, let him have it.
No. I think, to Kyle's point of the things that he was wondering about, we know that these changelings infiltrated a lot. I think that the influence that whoever they were pretending to be, because we don't know all of who they were pretending to be, they don't explain who it was outside of Tuvok. I think that power and that influence and that fear of going against is why the ships were integrated. I think that it was such a high up decision that, again, in military organizations, you don't question the higher ups. They tell you to do something, you do it. And so I think that's what stands to that, is why no one questioned it, even though it maybe to lower people, they were like, this seems kind of stupid. No one was going to say anything, because you do that, you're out. And maybe they thought, if we stay, we can maybe infiltrate and we can change things, right? So I think that's what was going on there. And then same with everybody comes back for Fleet Day, because they knew what they needed to have done. They needed to have all those ships there to wipe out the station, to take down the planetary defenses, to hit all the major cities and that kind of stuff. Like, again, that was a high up call. Lower ranking, I'm sorry, you don't get to question. You don't, like, period. You question your officers, you're reprimanded. It's not a good thing. So I think that's kind of why. Yes, it seems hokey and it fit the story, but really that's kind of why. So
what you're saying is that now Admiral Mariner was in a brig somewhere. I call it
yeah, basically. And at the end of the episode, they mentioned that the changelings had kept everybody that they had pretended to be, and they were probably, torturing them or something, depriving them of stuff, but they kept them, right? So yes, probably anybody who questioned suddenly disappeared and was replaced with a changeling. So, I mean, the depths of that goes, they didn't really fully explain. So
it's interesting, Kyle, you brought up a good point, and
mm-hmm.
Haley, you just reminded me of when a plot hole exists or something in the script or something doesn't exist, I will try to look underneath the layer and try to make sense of it myself, because is there an edit? Was something taken out? Was there a
Mhm.
line of dialogue that was edited out? And that happens all the time, you know. So I have to go, okay, is there a possibility that something else could have happened? And you know, and sometimes you just go, no, and you just go with it. You're here to see your heroes flying one last time here. You're here for these moments to share, and you know, the biggest threat that they've had has been the Borg, and you know, and I'm just going to tease ahead of time, is you know, this is Jean-Luc Picard's story. What is the worst thing that could happen to him? And that was addressed in the ready room. And so I'll just leave it at that. Amy.
Yeah, a couple of standouts that I just want to mention to make sure we talk about. Beverly and Troy. Their character arcs and ending with this episode was so amazing. Like the whole season, Beverly was taking her knowledge of medical and biology and using it to help us viewers understand what was happening with the changeling, how to find Jack, how to save Jack. Like that integration between that medical, biology, technology, science, absolutely loved. Her character's been doing it all along, but it was showcased in this season. My second standout, as we all know, is Troy. This episode marked her perfection. I absolutely loved. She was a strong counselor. She was a strong wife. She was moved to action. And I think if you look at her character, like in the seasons, in the series, she was a little hesitant. She wasn't the one to jump up and go. She was in this series, and especially in this episode, when Riker was sending his final goodbye, I love you, Imzadi. And we'll skip over that because I don't want to sob again. She instantly jumped out of her seat, ran to the helm. I can save them. I know exactly where they are. Bringing back all of the memories of Imzadi and all that implies, knowing that she did it before on Nemesis with the scimitar where she found them, right? Because of that connection. Like she was an action-oriented character, which I think closed her and completed her character. I just thought Beverly and Troy were the standouts. And then, yes, Worf and Riker, that back and forth definitely needed that comedy in this season. Yeah.
Well said. I want to touch on Beverly really quick. During the normal run of TNG, I was crushing on her, you know, something about redheads too. Kyle knows what I'm talking about. But seeing her, like, not only be the person that helps explain things, but be like an investigator too. And not to mention badassery of photon torpedoes and lasers and blowing stuff up. It's been interesting 20 years. I love that about her. And Marina, oh God, she was so good in this. I agree with you. She really had some awesome moments. And I love that not only was she able to find them, but I also love this, like, I'm sensing joy from you, Data.
Sensing joy from somewhere.
Yeah. I thought that was great. All right, guys. I have a couple. Yeah?
No. Yep.
Okay. I brought up some fun stuff here I want to share with you guys. Riker's leg. I love the fact that it was back. If you're listening to this, make sure you check out the video. Riker putting his foot up on the console here. I just thought that was great. That's such a Riker move. Also, too, Todd Stashwick went to Twitter on the happy finale day. Look, he sat in my chair. Fair's fair. I love this. That's great. And guys, Anton Chekhov is president. How cool is that? I didn't catch this at first, that he wasn't the Chekhov, but he was the son of the Chekhov, and that they named him after Anton Yelchin, of course, who passed away. I thought that was really, really cool. Any thoughts on this, guys? I was just like, oh my God, he's president.
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, wait, what? What?
Yeah.
What? Oh, okay.
If I had one nitpick, guys, we didn't really get a reunion moment between Geordi and his daughters. We kind of got where they were on the screen and he saw them and there's a smile between them, but I really kind of just wanted like at least 30 seconds of them, just I guess because of the throwback to the last episode where his instinct was to go save them, but there's nothing that they could do, and it was Data that pulled him back. Like, what are you going to do? I just really wanted a moment there. If I have one little nitpick about it, and I was kind of curious too. Could we have seen Wesley come back? I was kind of hoping. Did anyone else think that we might see a Wesley to kind of just bring him back into the final thing, and he can just kind of pop in his little traveler ways and say, "Hi, Mom. Oh, you must be my brother. Oh, you got Borged out. Oh, that sucked, didn't it?" Something like that. I'm just saying.
I just want to interject here because I have a sneaking suspicion. If you look, I'm going to steal the Oracle for just a minute here, Haley. Forgive me.
Yes.
If certain things happen, there will be a Wesley Crusher appearance in the future in the Star Trek universe. Yeah. If certain things happen, which I let me put it this way, I feel about 80% confident that it's going to happen. So,
all right, guys. One last thing. I thought this was great on Twitter. We have Terry Metalis with Chekhov and Shaw watching Star Trek Picard season finale together. How awesome is that?
You want to be in that room, part of that group watching the finale.
Yeah, they're all neighbors. That's why they're there together. They live next to each other.
That is so cool. I love that. All right, guys, we have some away missions to get into. Let's get into our first away mission. All right, guys. Ooh, I'm excited for this one. All right, guys. The first away mission that we have here is the return of the Borg Queen, her plans, and Jean-Luc, Beverly, and Jack here. This was a culmination of a lot of things, of how the Borg are using Jack, and I wasn't sure how this was going to play out. I didn't know if we were going to lose somebody, but what I really liked about these scenes was when Picard and Beverly were talking via comm badge, and he says to her, "You did everything right." I'm paraphrasing, can't remember the exact words, but it was a moving moment because of the scenes they had prior, and why didn't you tell me? And this is why I didn't tell you. And when it comes down to it, he says, "Look, if you're going to stay here and be a Borg, I'm going to be here with you." And that wonderful hug. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on how this kind of played out and some of the moments in between led up to it too, because it was scary. It was emotional. As you can see this picture here, Locutus, and did Jack have a Borg name? Jack Locutus?
Vox, I think it's probably, yeah.
The last episode, that's right. She did call him Vox. There you go. So Locutus and Vox here are looking very similar, actually. I want to start with you, Kyle. You obviously were, you had your nitpick about, the Borg, and you felt that they've been played out. But I did want to get your thoughts while you were kind of watching these individual scenes, because I know the characters played them well, and you probably enjoyed that. But give me your thoughts.
I think if you are going to use the Borg and how they chose to use the Borg with incorporating Picard's son and everything like that, that it makes sense. And this moment of him reaching out to Jack, who has never really felt like he's belonged, and the realization for Jack that he has his family, and with that is an absolutely beautiful moment in the show. But I'd be remiss too if considering the circumstances around the character of the Borg Queen, to get Alice Krieg back as the Borg Queen, is absolutely phenomenal. And I have a feeling I know why in part she did it too, but to this version of the Borg Queen back, and to have it be so twisted and demented, where she is so lost in her master plan that she's literally assimilating and devouring her own people to make this new plan work, to evolve. This shows you how evil the Borg Queen was, and how terrifying the Borg Queen was. And this, I think, the Borg have always kind of had a fear factor because of that whole idea of losing yourself to being assimilated. But to me, this was even scarier because now you have somebody who not only has given up on the idea of assimilation and wants annihilation, and she's willing to sacrifice her own species, this whole section of her own species, to get what she wants and to get her plan and evolve her species. That's somebody who doesn't care, and it doesn't matter as long as she meets her objective. And in the meantime, using Picard's own son against him also does a strike at her biggest enemy and her biggest disappointment. And I think that aspect of it is just so powerful and so well done, and within that aspect of it, again, the fact that there was just so many other things with Trek that I feel like you could have done here besides the Borg, or just incorporated it within the Borg. Because I was so excited for the Dominion aspect of this when they dove into it, and it kind of became an afterthought, I think, a little bit for the Borg. But as far as how they executed it, I think they did a very good job, and just made the Borg Queen even more terrifying than what she was even before.
Amy, what about you?
You know, I can understand a little bit, Kyle, what you're saying. The Borg have been done. We had it in season 1 and the Reclamation and Hugh, and then we had it in season 2 with Girardi. And what I loved about Girardi's Borg is that they're going to continue, but it's by choice. If you want to be assimilated, then you can join our collective. And that was a great way to take the teeth out of the Borg. And then we have this, and it's like, man, her plan, as you said, was just so evil, but she was onto something just a little bit. And then she, went off to annihilation, but she wanted the Borg to procreate and to not depend on assimilate. And I thought, man, that's a really good thing for her, but then she just went too far. And so I was intrigued with how they told the Borg story just ever so differently, that made it for me fresh and unique. And to have Locutus and Vox together, and knowing, yes, there is a collective, and you may think that's your family, but who is your real family? And when Picard said that line, "You have changed me forever. You are something that I didn't know I was missing. You have completed me," in essence, was so beautiful, and just contrasted what the Queen's thoughts were. So even though, yes, we have 3 seasons of Borg, this one, I think was well deserved.
Kevin, if I can just interject something here real quick, because as Amy was talking, it made me think of something. The intriguing thing about this season and using the Borg is that the Borg and Starfleet are almost 2 sides of the same coin. In Starfleet, they're trying to unite all these planets into one thing under the United Federation of Planets, but they do it in a more of a passive manner. You're not giving up your individuality, but you're still uniting under one kind of collective. While the Borg are the extreme of that same thing, it's taken to the utmost extreme, where, and in this case, they're not only now is the Borg Queen trying to annihilate anything that would represent an impurity in the Borg, because if you look, her idea is getting anything younger that grows up, as now they grow into a Borg, and taking out those imperfections of an older generation that might be able to resist or have imperfections. But the Borg are trying to create this massive collective too of one thing. But it's the idea of Starfleet, but taken to this completely dark side thing. But they are the same. If you look at it, if you really step back and look at the bigger picture, they are the same coin. It's just a matter of approach.
Haley, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I will go back to Vox, so the previous episode, when Deanna opens the door, when the door gets opened and she sees that Borg ship, I was completely flummoxed. I was like, oh shit. Because I wasn't expecting that that's where we were gonna go, like at all. I had no idea. And so I was really intrigued by, okay, what is going on? I, to a degree, yes, was like, okay, we've got the Borg again. But I think they did it in such a wonderful way in wrapping it up in this episode, because now we can officially move on from this Borg storyline. We don't have to revisit it again. It's not going to be a thing. The queen is gone. Like, finally, I mean, God, it's been 35 years. I thought she was already dead. She wasn't dead. So that was just mind blowing. And so, to that degree, I like that we finally kind of really fully, after 35 years, have an end to this storyline, right? But I started crying when Picard, Worf, and Riker got in the turbo lift, because in my mind, Picard was saying goodbye officially. Like, I thought he was going to go down there. He was going to get Jack out. He was going to take Jack's place, that somehow he was going to use his own strength of his own will and his own determination to somehow fight whatever was going on, because they didn't know that the queen was still alive, and figure it out and get everybody out and sacrifice himself. And so I immediately was already getting emotional. And when he says to Riker that, I'm a dad now. Like, you were in charge. I'm a dad now. Like, it just continued this, like, he was going to do what he needed to do. And I can understand that as a parent, like, you're going to do what you can. I think this was so well done and really beautiful in him finally reaching out and connecting to Jack, and that part of Jack that started crying, knowing that Picard was going to give up his life to stay there so that he could continue to have that relationship with his kid that he never knew, really hits home, because that's how my biological dad, that I just found not even a year ago, has been doing with me. And this unexpected, like, not knowing a person, but somehow always having this connection to them and really wanting to make that and turn that into something beautiful. Like, my bio dad he's in his 60s, and it's all these years later. And so it's very similar to this story with Captain Picard and Jack of, I want to know who you are, and pulling him out and rescuing him, and then Jack turning around and coming out of it and saving himself and realizing that that's not what he wanted, that it wasn't going to be something that was really going to fill that emptiness, that this loneliness that he's felt all his life, but making a connection with his dad was going to fill that, was incredibly moving and incredibly powerful. And it was, just really beautiful. I'm good.
Well said, Haley. Yeah. The dad and father moments there hit home with me as well. And I just, when we were introduced that they had a son, being fans, we wanted Crusher and Picard to eventually hook up, and even though we didn't see it happen, I felt that this was a wonderful way to bring it kind of full circle, because, Jack not wanting to be part of Picard's life, and we got a little like flashback to where, he sort of saw him and met him, but didn't meet him, in that bar. And Picard putting himself on the line for his son. And I just thought that was done really, really well. And kind of, another side of Picard too, just being the father, because he's never been a fatherly type. I mean, he's been a mentor, of course, but he just hasn't been the fatherly type. And this has been a learning process for his character. And I just feel that this series, especially this last season, is really, it's great to see all of the original cast together, but making them all shine and work together and reconnect in certain ways, and getting the band back together was just wonderful. And that leads us into our next topic. The Enterprise D crew saves the Federation. I want to get your guys' reaction and favorite moments of our reunited crew and the fat ship. Guys, we got reintroduced to the D in the last episode, Vox, but we actually get to see it in action here. Them taking the bridge, of course, splitting up in away teams. And, I wasn't expecting to see Beverly, handle the phasers, and she kicked ass. Oh my God, guys. So many emotions regarding this. I want to know, there was a lot of really good moments between our favorite characters, our now legacy characters. They each had their own little moments to shine. And I really wanted to kind of dive into your guys' brains of some of your favorite moments here. Not necessarily talk about the plot itself. I just want to know, as you're watching this and crying in your car during lunch when this is happening, what were you thinking? Amy, start with you.
One moment that just really stands out, again, it's these character moments, is Data, his struggle to be human. And now he is human, right? As he's discussing with Troy. I love that line at the end where he's like, sometimes being human is just as difficult as the desire to be human. I'm like, yes, that's exactly right.
Yep.
And that moment where he's on the bridge where they had to go to the beacon. Well, the beacon is in the center of the Borg cube. How are we going to get it? And he even says, statistically, this is not going to work. But I have a feeling in my gut. And when he said that, all those times in the series, he's questioned, what do you mean you trust your gut? He's thought about this for 30 years, and now he gets to experience it. What a wonderful, experience that he has to just trust his gut. And then he had to convince everyone else. Come on, guys, trust me. And Geordi, first one. All right, you're going to do it. Let's do it.
Geordi took some convincing, though. He's like, this is impossible.
Yeah.
Which is weird if you think about it. I mean, it's Data, and it's a human version of Data, but it's still Data. Like, why would you think that he would not be capable of still making all those tiny little calculations and doing what Data always did in 7 seasons of TNG and be able to do that? Like, that was so mind-blowing to me that he had to prove to them that he could still do all of that.
Kyle, you have thoughts?
Well, I think to Haley's point, though, this is they made this very clear. This is a new version of Data that they don't fully know yet. Yes, it's the Data they know, but they don't know what this Data is capable of, and they don't know how the emotions are affecting those abilities too. And I think it was a great proving point. That scene is a great proving point to say what makes Data is still there, but now you have this other thing when Deanna says, I sense joy, I sense elation, and so it's trying to show that, yes, we still have this old version of Data, but it has this whole new wrinkle to it. And I think there was this aspect, really, Data hadn't proven himself until that moment. And so it was Geordi trusting his best friend to enable for that moment. And I think under the circumstances, even he's probably questioning it, because he's still not sure what Data is at this point. He gives all his faith into his friend, and that's what makes that a great moment. And I think that's that's one of the things that, especially in this episode, was putting their faith into each other. Because at different moments, they all put their faith into each other to have each other's backs. And I think that, especially with this particular crew of Star Trek, is one of their strongest character traits, is their faith in each other. And that's something that I'm sorry, but that's something that I truly believe is not something that's a strong point for every Star Trek crew. Discovery. But this is like the ultimate version of this crew having complete trust in one another to have each other's backs.
Kyle, what was your favorite moment during these scenes?
There were several. I love the fact we kind of see Geordi in the captain's role here when Picard and Riker and Riker entrusts Geordi to be the captain, which tells you how much Picard has always thought of Geordi too. And as a Geordi fan, I love that. I love everything on the ship between between Riker and Worf. I mean, like I said, you had a phaser the whole time. Yeah, but swords are more. I mean, just took that relationship to a different place, even after all of this time. And I've got to say it too. There was some I thought there were some fun moments, even going back after everything, and when they're settling up. That scene between Worf and Raffi was phenomenal, and Raffi finally getting her redemption, and
gives her a hug.
Yeah. It's like, though I have never cried. That's what I'm. You question my heart, Kevin. I'm Worf. Though I've never cried, but yeah, I mean, those are just some of my moments. But really, I mean, there's not a bad character moment in this episode, and that's what makes this episode so special. Whatever my feelings are as far as the storyline itself goes in this episode, that's one thing. But the character moments are what made this episode from start to finish. And there's so many good ones. You could have a 4-hour podcast on that if you wanted to. But it's just, that's what this season of Picard has been these character moments that have made it so special.
Haley.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things, again, making the Borg scary, when they zoom in and when they go in and see how that Borg ship is coming out, basically, of the storm that's on Jupiter, not just its clouds, but I mean the storm on Jupiter. I was like, oh Jesus, the Borg cube, when we see it for the first time in TNG, you're like, that is terrifying. It was scary, and then it just goes from there, and they got scarier and darker and just terrifying. But that was insane. I was like, oh, this is bad. This is going to be really, really bad. I loved all the moments. I think it was, truly wonderful and beautiful. And again, showing the relationship, not only that the actors have for each other, but that these characters have built over the years. I think one of my favorites, we've talked about it already, but Dr. Crusher surprising everybody when she fires all the torpedoes and everything, and the ship starts blowing up, and they all just kind of turn and look at her, and she's like, yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot the last 20 years. I thought that was just really lighthearted, but also, to kind of break up these really tense, extremely emotional moments. And after all of this, I know we have our Captain Picard Day, and I know we have First Contact Day, but I think we officially need to make something of Enterprise D-Day, because how many times has this crew saved not only Starfleet, but the entire Federation? It really needs to be a thing now at this point, because yes, Prime Directive sometimes, but seriously, out of all of the shows, who has saved the Federation and saved Starfleet's butt the most? It is the Enterprise D and her crew. And people can knock on the ship, the fat ship, but you know what? It is always going to be home to me. It will always be, as Amy said, the most beautiful ship to me. That ship, that crew, this show got me through a lot of really tough times growing up. and it will always be the best, in my opinion.
Kyle,
Always.
thoughts?
I want to bring up something Haley said, because there's a character moment that we haven't addressed yet. That there isn't it, but we saw it, and it's one of the best shots in the. There's two times that are just incredible shots, and that is the Enterprise D itself. The shot where Beverly is firing on it, but you're seeing the D fly up against the Borg cube, shooting all those torpedoes and the phaser blasts and everything like that. It's just an absolutely beautiful shot in itself. The other time is when they go and they show up, and you look over, they look up, and there's the Enterprise D right there teleporting them right before the explosion hits. I mean, if we're going to talk about the characters, we know the Enterprise D is a character. Those were two phenomenal character moments for the Enterprise D.
It's a main character. Amy, I know you got some more thoughts on this. Come on.
Yeah, that scene where they're looking up and Deanna comes in with the ship to swoop and save them. That I was bawling then too. And I put out to you guys that little Twitter thing, and they had the Enterprise D set to the Beach Boys Surfing USA.
That was great.
That was so funny, because I'm like, this ship is flying and maneuvering faster, better, more exact than we ever saw. But to that point, I feel like, well, it's been 30 years. Geordi is rebuilding this. You're not going to rebuild a muscle car. You've got new engines. Your rebuilt muscle car is probably going to outperform what it was back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, whenever it was, a cool thing. So I'm totally fine with this ship being way more maneuverable, awesome, lovely, because it's Geordi. And he is going to bring it to pristine condition even better.
And then some.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Kyle and I were making a point in the last episode with Vox that the Enterprise has always been the flagship of the Federation. But the D, what's interesting about the D is that it was like the first Galaxy class, and it was feared, It was even mentioned by the Duras sisters. That's a Galaxy class starship. We can't go up against that. And in some of the really fun episodes of Next Gen, that's where they had all the delegates show up and have their dinners, and it was like this honor to be on this ship. And the way the sets were built, it felt that big, how big it was, and it had over 1,000 people on the ship, families too, which was also made it unique. And it had all these other cool options for it. It's separated. It's when they designed the Enterprise D, they really did a great job. And then they left room for it to develop more on its own, whether it was adding new rooms or whatever it was. Kyle, did you have a thought? I thought you threw your hand up there.
Well, I just wanted to add in too, as part of that discussion, was that I noticed when Geordi was talking about nobody can make that flight, he said, not even my own daughter, which, we joked at the beginning, crash LaForge. But then Geordi lets it slip how much he respects his daughter's ability as a helmsman to make that comment. Not even my own daughter can make that. And it was a moment, because somehow I just don't know if I see Geordi yet allowing Crash LaForge to fly the Enterprise D I'll take it out for a spin.
I have one final thing.
Yes, please.
To wrap up this section. I think this is a good one. When everyone comes back from being in the Borg cube, Picard says to Jack, "Welcome to the Enterprise." Yeah. Because if you think back to when Dr. Crusher brings Wesley, it's like, what is this kid doing on my bridge? Blah, 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 and here he is, and really kind of poignant of like, welcome to this ship that I called home, and this family that was my family for so long. And I thought that was really great way to cut out from this scene.
Yeah,
in the show.
All right, guys, next topic we're going to discuss 7. All right, guys. 7 is promoted to captain of the rechristened USS Enterprise NCC 1701G, formerly the Titan. I did not see this coming. Even Will Wheaton didn't see this coming in the radio room. He discussed about it. Did you guys see it coming? I didn't see it coming. We kind of had a feeling that if there was going to be more Star Trek, we would see 7 in it. Maybe a Titan show. We didn't know. I thought this was a really cool thing to do. And then, of course, we get a little not a flashback, but we get Tuvok, showing the recommendation by Shaw that 7 is loyal and deserves her own captaincy. And there it is, the beautiful ship now, the Enterprise. Amy, I want to start with you. Your thoughts on 7, now the captain of the USS Enterprise G.
Yes. So first of all, renaming it 1701G. When I first saw it, I was like, I'm okay. I mean, I liked the Titan. It was good. It was Riker's ship, right? Riker and Troy served on it. And then it's being passed down to 7 of 9. Totally was like, yeah. But then when Rhea pointed it out to me, what letter of the alphabet is G? It happens to be the 7th letter. Who is captain? 7 of 9. Right? And I'm like, oh, well, this.
I totally did not get that. Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, this has to be. It can't be anything else. It must be 1701G. So I'm totally on board with that. And how amazing. What a compliment for Captain Shaw to give his recommendation. And I can only hope that someone would say that about me, in that loyal, has integrity, broke rules, which probably should have been broken in the first place. That to me was the best line, because then her hesitancy of like, yep, I've broken all these rules. I'm not fit to serve. Here's my resignation. Like, you feel that when you are in this major organization. And to break the rules that really should be broken is a testament to her intelligence, to her wisdom, to her foresight. Like, she has it all, and it was all summed up to me in that one line. I think she's going to be a great captain and is going to break all the necessary rules.
Kyle, even Terry Matalas said that she had that captain lean in the chair on the radio.
She's Kirk.
Your thoughts on 7 getting the new captaincy and on the Enterprise?
Okay, so first of all, as far as 7 getting the captaincy, this is not a shock to me. I think this has been leading up since earlier seasons of Picard. They've been dropping these hints. So to see her get the captaincy, I don't. That's not an issue. That's not even an issue there. I'm happy for it. I'm glad. I was a little shocked that they renamed the Titan the Enterprise, and only for this, because I talked to a couple of my friends who have been in the military, and it is actually considered incredibly bad luck to rechristen a ship's name. Change the name of a ship and rechristen it a different name. The same ship, a different name.
Interesting.
But it has been done. My brother, who serves in the Navy, is like, yeah, they do it.
Oh, they do it, but it is considered bad luck to do it. And so I was a little surprised by that, but because if nothing else, I figured they would have just given us a whole new ship and not the Titan. But I understand why they did it, and I think it's also, again, the breadcrumbs that are being left by Terry Matalas here are just huge, and I just think that we're going to see it happen, and I think we're going to get some kind of new show announcement here before the year is out.
We'll get into that. Hold on.
Well, there's plenty of letters left in the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. That's true.
All right. Oh, Kyle, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to go to you next, Haley.
Yeah. So like Kyle, I wasn't surprised actually that 7 got promoted. I'm really excited for her character. I'm really happy for her. I think that this is the right move. I think she definitely displays a bit more characteristics of Kirk, but also Janeway and a little bit of Picard. So I think it's wonderful, and I'm really excited. So I was, however, completely flummoxed when they renamed the ship. I did not expect that at all, and what an honor. I'm really excited for Jack because he was a fan of the Enterprise, the original one, as we learned earlier this season. And what a great way to honor the legacy of our favorite crew from TNG by renaming the ship. And to your point, Kyle, yes, maybe renaming a ship is bad luck, but I don't know. I feel like the Titan had to really already run their bad luck already. I think maybe that's past for them. And I think this is a great way to, again, go forward with whatever they decide to do. But I was thoroughly floored, and that just made me cry a little bit more too. So
I was surprised. I loved it. I thought it was great. It was very fitting. Plus, they can save money on sets for whatever comes next. But I want to give a shout out to this scene right here. I love how Raffi says that they gave a thief, a pirate, and a spy their own ship. I thought that was great. And I love that it's those three that are at the top there, sitting behind everybody, and it would be interesting to see what would happen. These things, Amy.
Yeah, can we talk about her catchphrase? That was so funny. Like,
you mean lack of catchphrase yet?
Yes. And because it broke the fourth wall, right? They were talking to us. Yeah, what's going to be the catchphrase? We had to know with Burnham. Let's fly. What's Pike's going to say? So the fact that it went around the room, everyone like turned around. Yeah, what? I'm waiting. And then
that Raffi put like such a big deal on it,
Yes. Everyone was putting a big deal on it. Exactly what we're thinking. And then to have it be like this cliffhanger, like, ooh, I would like to see that she's like the episode cuts out in the future, like if we have Legacy, like before she says her engage or her catchphrase, like it just cuts out every single time until that series finale where we get the phrase. I want to be in suspense the whole time.
Haley, I'm curious what you have to say, but I don't know if I want to be in suspense the whole time, Amy, because I think there needs to be a dramatic moment, because she has to like use your hands to say it, like, Picard says, engage, I don't know. What are your thoughts, Haley?
No, I completely agree. Although, yeah, maybe like halfway through, or like there's going to be like a cliffhanger 2-parter episode where there's like some cliffhanger and she says it at that, and then it cuts out or something like that. That would be great. Totally. I'm intrigued because we've had hit it, punch it, engage, let's fly. I mean,
make it so.
Make it so. Who knows what it could be? I mean, there's so many different things that she could have it be. To go with this, and we haven't really talked about it, but it's in this kind of area of the episode. I love that we need to talk about Dr. Crusher. She's an admiral now. And that is fantastic.
Yeah.
She came up with a solution to use the transporters to transport out this code that's been implanted in everybody that's left, right? And to figure out to find the changelings even better. Like, only Dr. Crusher, I think, could be the one to put together a team to spearhead that, to get these things fixed, because she is such a phenomenal person. I've always enjoyed her character. I've always loved her character so much. And so I love that as well. I think that was really, really great.
I think what you're saying, just set Kyle, I think what you're saying, Haley, is that you think that Admiral Picard and Admiral Crusher are going to hook up one last time.
They're a power couple, let's just say. I mean, really.
Okay, so 2 things here. Since Haley brought one thing up, I'll address that in a minute. But come on, Kevin. I have 2 words for you. Avengers and then it's gonna cut off every time.
Yeah.
Yes. Somebody's been watching the MCU too much.
Yes.
Point 2, it says Haley brought up the power couple of Picard and Crusher. No, absolutely not. I don't. The biggest disservice of all of this final season of Picard, Valeris has been screwed. Well, we have a whole new villain for whatever new Star Trek show with Jack, because woman scorned. No, just my personal feeling. I heart Laris, and sorry.
Okay. All right, guys. Before we head into the next away mission, we got one more topic we have to discuss. That poker game. It ends with poker, as it should. Guys, every time I watch All Good Things, and Picard comes in and wants to sit in and play, and he looks around and he says, I should have done this before, and I think it's Troy says you're always welcome, and there's a little part of me that it's a little painful to watch that, because I would have loved to have seen Picard in some of those poker nights, and we got it. I want to get your guys' thoughts here. Haley, I'm going to start with you. The poker scenes.
I'm already crying. No, this was 100% fan service, and I'm so actually really glad that they ended with it. Every time I watch TNG and All Good Things, I get to All Good Things and I get to that poker scene, I always get emotional. Because I know it's the end. And I remember watching it the first time and just being so distraught that it was ending and that I wasn't getting any more. Even though I knew I could go back and watch it, I wasn't getting any more. And so it was incredibly fitting that they did this, that they ended in Guinan's bar. And I love when Picard holds up the ace of cards and they all just laugh like,
yes!
We're all gonna go, like we're done for the night, we're old, we're tired, we can't hold our alcohol like we used to, kind of, but they're all like, yes, yeah, we all have to play. And sitting around and watching them play, I think was just such a nod to the fans who grew up on TNG, who love Next Gen. Was beautiful, it was well done. And then watching the Ready Room, and I know we're going to talk about it later, but I'll throw it in now because I love that they said the lines that they said it, but then the rest was ad-libbed. And yes, Terry, if you're listening to this, us fans, us TNGers, we want the whole 45 minutes released to us, please, because I would love to just see that, because the joy and the happiness, as they said, that was genuine. These people love each other. These actors love each other. These characters love each other. And us fans love not only these characters, but we love these actors. And it was such a fitting end to this episode. It was beautiful.
Amy.
I'm fine.
You're getting me going, Haley.
I'm sorry.
Gosh. When they were at the bar and they had their drinks, and then Troy was like, well, we need to get going because we're going on our vacation. And I think Geordi had somewhere to go. And I was like, oh, you're leaving me? You're done? And then Picard pulls out the card. Oh my gosh. I was never so happy because I thought that was the end of the episode. And I thought, well, that's good. They're ending in the, Guinan's bar, 10 forward. That's okay. But oh my gosh, I needed to have this. And the shots that they got, the close-ups, and they just went around to see them and the faces and the joy in their eyes. Like, this was my motion picture introduction of the Enterprise, right? Everyone loves it. Yes, it's beautiful. And how many minutes is it? I don't know. We needed this here for this TNG, this Next Generation, to have those shots and the faces and the smiles going around, and the same view, like from the top and the dealing, and we just go bird's eye and it expands. And then to hear the chitter chatter through the theme music all the way to the end. So you know that instead of the Enterprise flying off and you just know they're going on another adventure, we're ending with them together in their friendship, their family, chit-chatting, having fun. It was the perfect ending. I have always said All Good's Thing is the best season finale. This one just adds to it.
Kyle, there was a young lady from Venus.
No.
Well, you know what? I'm just so I don't know if I should be happy or sad that Orlando is still such a popular tourist destination.
Kyle, the poker game.
Obviously, this is the most fitting way to end this series is with this poker game. But I think what's even more fitting about it is that when you go back to All Good Things and the fact that journey Picard goes through and that change that happens because of that is what allows Picard to finally join the poker game. And yet when we get to here, when they're all getting ready to leave, it's Picard who brings out the cards and says, wait a minute. And I think that it's such a great character moment for Picard because we see more evolution of Picard. And to me, again, that is one of the biggest things of actually the whole Picard experience is the evolution of such a long-time character evolving even so much more as the way Captain Picard has evolved throughout this entire run, all 3 seasons of Picard, especially in this season, obviously becoming a father. But everything that these 3 seasons come culminating in that moment where it's Picard starting the poker game instead of finally joining it. The circle is kind of complete because now it's Picard who's the one who's saying, no, this is my family. We're not leaving without our tradition. And then to just go out of that, and I'm with Haley. That just needs to be a Paramount Plus special, that 45 minutes of, I mean, how magical must it have been to be behind the cameras filming that and listening to, because you know that there's probably shots in there where they called each other by their real names by accident and things like that. And just to hear them laugh and that pure joy of that scene had to be amazing to be in that room.
Yeah,
everyone on set was watching.
Yeah, what you're referring to, Kyle, they mentioned in the radio room, Terry Matalas said that he let the camera run while these wonderful people were playing for 45 minutes, and I'm sure we all want to see that. He says maybe in a Blu-ray they'll release that. And what is it? Picard was, what was he preaching? Was it Shakespeare when he's doing the toast? I think it was
toast.
And it just so perfectly, he just then holds up the card. But what I love about that 1 second is that when he holds it up, it flashes to Deanna and she goes, yes! And her face is basically us going, yes!
That was all Marina,
Yeah.
It was great. Yeah. And, the best part about this scene when you learn in the radio room is that, I think it was Frakes, I can't remember, was saying how there was a fine line at that time between our characters and ourselves, and that it was pretty much they were playing themselves, it felt like, which was wonderful because we know how close these guys are. And it's so fitting that, as you mentioned, that it's Picard that initiates it. And I love the shot here where you see the camera pull up down on them playing, and we get to see that relived from All Good Things. And I thought that was just a perfect way to end with the end credit scene and stuff. And
yeah,
kind of emotional. I'm just gonna say, getting emotional. Where were we? Oh yeah, guys. Okay, we got one last away mission, guys. Let's do it. All right, guys. Whew. I just want to talk about that scene for like another 2 hours. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. God. All right, guys, let's get into the away mission here, the last one. And this was the news that I wanted to share with you. That was on EW.com. And this ties into that last credit scene here. Star Trek Picard finale post-credit scene explained. Showrunner confirms big things to come. Showrunner Terry Matalas says Ed Speleers is going to be a busy man after Picard. And I'll go into the article here and then we can kind of comment on it here. He says there might be another Star Trek series coming our way, or at the least another home for Ed Speleers as Jack Crusher. The series finale of Star Trek Picard, which dropped on Paramount Plus, came with a post-credit scene that teases some big things ahead for the character. Showrunner Terry Matalas confirms in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, quote, "Jack's got a lot to do, let me tell you." He wouldn't tell us exactly what, of course, but the producer who has guided the Patrick Stewart-led spinoff to break into the Nielsen top 10 ratings for the first time with season 3 confirms his story isn't over. Post-credit scenes cuts to Jack in the quarters on the Enterprise G. He settles into a room when Q, John Delancey, makes a surprise cameo appearance. "Young mortal, you have much ahead of you," he tells Jack. "You told my father that humanity's trial was over, the young Crusher replies. "It is for him," he clarifies. "But I'm here today because of you. You see, yours, Jack, has just begun." And it was great to see this, guys. But I want to kind of, first of all, your reaction to this, and what you first were thinking when you saw this scene, and now the news that something is coming forward. And there's this name throwing around. I think it's a fan name, Star Trek Legacy, maybe, we don't know. But Amy, I want to start with you here. Your thoughts when this scene kicked in, and why was it in here? What do you think?
I was a little confused myself because Q died, and then I was like, okay, don't think so linearly, Nelson.
He did die, right?
Yes. So yeah, he was sick, remember?
Yeah.
But I love how they are bringing back encounter points and all good things, like this trial of humanity. I don't know if I really buy that it is of humanity. That's what Picard's was. So I wish they would have sort of changed it. I like the idea of a trial and his robes, like reminiscent of, Judge Q. He's got this red cape type thing that opens up. And so he looks amazing. So I'm very intrigued. I don't want it to be a trial of humanity. Make it some other different kind of trial to sprucing it up.
Yeah. Kyle, your thoughts?
First of all, you can't have a final season and close the chapter on The Next Generation without an appearance by Q. And especially after a lot of people were maybe a little dissatisfied with how Q was treated in season 2. And I think to have this moment, and in a way, to me, it feels like it is closing the chapter on The Next Generation, but it is opening a chapter in Star Trek. And if the rumors are true, and if what Terry Matalas has planned, with this news and with a lot of other things, there's a lot of puzzle pieces, at least in my mind, that are starting to line up. I think now we know why. We all have been questioning, was it going to be 2024 before we saw the final season of Star Trek Discovery? I think I know now. I think they needed to fill the gap before they have the first season of Star Trek Legacy or whatever it will be ready to go. And by moving Discovery to 2024, it fills the gap for the announcement that sometime in late 2024, Star Trek Legacy will be a thing. I also think that by announcing that it's the continuing trials, it's the trials of Jack Crusher now, it really leads me to think, if we are going to go down this rabbit hole of a Star Trek Legacy type show and dealing with legacy, what better way than to have an overarching storyline where at the end of it, Jack Crusher takes on his proper surname and becomes Jack Picard. And going through these trials that Q talks about, that journey of Jack Crusher accepting everything about himself and adopting the name of Picard or Crusher Picard or something along those lines, I think is a very key storyline if you're going to go forward with these characters. And what better character to maybe be a presence in Jack Crusher's life because his obsession with Picard and what Picard is, and still continue his looking over Picard's son, maybe not only to test him, but because of what ever weird feelings Q has for Picard. So I think there's a lot of interesting things at play here that we could see really happen over the next year and a half within the Star Trek universe, dealing with that 30-second scene.
Hey, what about you? What were your first reactions when you saw this scene and now the news of possibly more?
So first, I was not in the room when this happened, so I had to hit rewind because I heard dialogue and I was like, "What? What? I missed something." I had to have a bio break. But first thought was John Delancey is smoking. Holy moly, man looks gorgeous. Also, I'm intrigued. This could be very, very interesting. And like Amy, I think it's more of a trial of trial of humanity, but it's more trial of like one person's humanity more than like humanity at large. And so I'm thoroughly intrigued. It could be very, very interesting. I'm not crazy about, like, I like the concept of maybe we have a show where we follow these characters and they continue on and stuff. I definitely would love to see more. I hope they rejigger the title because actually I'm not crazy about the idea of a Star Trek legacy show. I don't know what they could name it, but definitely, I mean, it can't be the Titan anymore because the ship's not the Titan. But I don't know. Anyway, but I'm really excited.
I was just happy to see Q back. I was, I had to rewatch it back because I was like, man, he looks good. And I was like, wait, wasn't he dead? Did they explain that? I don't know. I thought he got, continuum cooties and died or something. I can't remember what it was. But I didn't care. I was glad he was back, and I loved how, it started with Encounter at Farpoint and it ended with All Good Things, and now we got him back here as well. But I was waiting for one thing to happen, because one of the moments that I liked, I think it was in the last season, when Picard hugs Q. And I kind of wish that Jack would have done that just to kind of disarm him a little bit and see what Q would have done with that. And this trial, I think it's interesting that this is Picard's son, and maybe it's not humanity. Maybe it is a human thing, and maybe it's a trial that maybe Q himself has to, be part of as well. And Jack's become an interesting character. He has such an interesting past, and I think it'll be interesting to maybe go back and see some flashbacks. Whether we get, Q taking, was it Tapestry, taking Picard back in time of the decisions that he made. Maybe we'll see something like that. That would be really cool, because there's a lot of time there that we don't see. We don't know all the stuff that Jack Crusher's gone through. So I think that would be kind of a cool thing to do. So, all right. What you got there, Haley? Is that a tribble? You got a tribble there. What's going on?
I do have a tribble. It's an angry tribble because I was gone for 2 weekends and the tribble did not like it.
I love that. All right, guys. We've got a little bit of oh wait, hold on, not yet. We got trivia first. Let's just do some trivia. All right. Walter Koenig, voice only. President Anton Chekhov mentions that he is the son of Pavel Chekhov, the original Star Trek series and movies, and not so coincidentally is also played by Walter Koenig. Anton's name is a subtle homage to late actor Anton Yelchin, who played Pavel Chekhov in 3 Star Trek films. And the name is also 1 letter away from the name of the famous Russian writer Anton Chekhov. So that was kind of cool. This is interesting. Showrunner Terry Matalas stated that Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew, was planned to appear in 7 of 9's promotion scene, but was cut for budgetary reasons. That was really, really, that would have been really, really cool. And I hope that we do get that moment sometime. A reunion between those two would be wonderful. The president Anton Chekhov delivers parallels the message that the president of the Federation delivered in Star Trek for the Voyage Home when he warned everyone the signal of an unknown probe was decimating Earth. And there was one line in the warning that is a quote from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, 82. Kirk tells Saavik, "As your teacher, Mr. Spock, fond of saying, there is always possibilities." 5 enterprises appear in this episode. The D, the G, given significant time, while the F appears in the assimilated fleet, and the NX-01 and 1701A can be briefly seen in the Fleet Museum. Tim Russ, of course, appears back as the non-changeling version of it. I did want to ask you guys really quick. Did you think that he was dead? Do you think that we, would have gotten maybe any other people mentioned in this? Because I noticed they had that one scene of where people are coming off the transporter and the security holds the one guy. You can tell it's a changeling and he's kind of moving stuff. But did you think that he was dead? Anybody? No.
Yeah.
I think we were kind of spoiled to him returning because he had mentioned in an interview that he was coming back. So, but whether he was going to come back as the real Tuvok, I'm kind of curious about that. Beverly Crusher becomes the head of Starfleet Medical, which was a post she previously held when the character was absent from the 2nd season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. When Jack arrives on the Enterprise G's bridge to take his post, he jokingly says, "Helm, set a course for the Metalis system. Maximum warp." This is a reference to season 3 showrunner Terry Metalis. But I did want to ask you, Amy, when he was asking Captain Seven, where he should go, and he's kind of making cases for each post, and she says, "I'd like you to be a counselor to the captain." What were your thoughts on that scene?
Yeah, I was actually really happy for that. And to see so much counseling going on, like with Deanna and Data. And, they're going to need a lot of counseling after those people who were Borgified are coming out of it. Do they remember what they did?
Yeah.
They need counseling. Do they have it wiped? That needs counseling. So, I don't think he's going to serve as a counselor, just more of counsel to the captain, which I think takes Troy's position and splits it into 2 different job titles. And I think that was smart.
Yeah. Kyle.
Amy hit it on the head because you hear Seven call him special counsel to the captain. And that is actually a perfect role for Jack Crusher, especially considering the captain is 7 of 9. Because if you go back to what Shaw said in Seven's review about breaking the rule book, and the rule book she's going to write is going to be amazing, who better to challenge Seven as a captain, as a counselor, than Jack Crusher, who's been living on the outside looking in, but breaking these rules, knowing a little bit more about what's going on out there, while Seven still probably has her connection to the Rangers. She's, as being a member, as she climbed through Starfleet, she probably lost some of those connections and lost being, as she's being part of Starfleet. So who better than to have this young man who's had all these experiences outside of Federation space, or running the underbelly of the Federation, doing whatever he's been doing with his mom. And I think it's a perfect role for Jack, and I think it's a perfect role to complement Seven as somebody who's going to push her like she in some ways probably pushed Shaw.
So I was just thinking of this as you were talking about it, Kyle. Do you think that they're putting too many types of characteristics on the bridge? Raffi, rule breaker. Seven, rule breaker. Jack, rule breaker.
But
They
they're
kind of addressed that in the
crasher.
scene, though.
Yeah.
You know, like
yeah, I mean, but yeah, so who's going to counsel them? It's very curious. Who's going to be the Spock character? Who's going to be the logical? Who's going to be the Shaw, do it by the book type of thing? Haley?
I think this is a great way to test that in each of themselves. So I think, they each have broken rules for various things, but not necessarily all the same ones. And so I think this is a great way for them to test themselves of what am I willing to do or not do? What am I capable of or not capable of? And what am I willing to bend or not bend? Because I think this is a great way for them, each of them, to have growth in the areas that they lack. And so that's my thought on that.
that's a good point. Kyle?
I think the other interesting aspect of it, yes, they're all rule breakers, but they're different kinds of rule breakers. 7 is very much, she still has got that streak of Starfleet in her, but she's also going to go with her gut a little bit in certain situations. Where with Raffi, we're looking at somebody who's been really in the underbelly, but still, again, has that line of Starfleet in her and following the rules. Jack, yes, he went through the academy, apparently hot-shotted right through it, but he's still got that rebellious eye from the outside looking in aspect of it that I think is really going to be, and he's going to challenge things. And Jack, I think for Jack, with having Raffi and 7 above him, is a check for him to keep him from going too far out of the box, even though there's going to be times where that is pulling from their different experiences. But I think what you'll see is that it's going to be, because it's the Enterprise too, and it's probably they're going to use the Enterprise to explore new areas. I think this makes this a very interesting crew dynamic. And like I said, whether we get a show, we get some movies, I really hope that happens, because I would love to see how this crew dynamic is going to play out.
The most obvious interesting crew dynamic, if this crew is seen again, is Raffi and 7.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting, and I like that. I want to kind of see how that plays out, and yeah. So I'm assuming if this is a show that either takes the Star Trek Strange New Worlds way, where it's episodic, or if there's like a overarching threat season type thing, like Discovery's been doing and stuff. So kind of curious what direction they might go. After the threat of the Borg had been dealt with, the scene of the Enterprise and the Titan flying over Earth with the sun peeking over the horizon mirrors the scene Star Trek VI: The Undiscovered Country in 1991, when the Enterprise A and Excelsior fly over Kittimer. Something was going in the back of my mind, I think, when I was watching one of your shows, Amy, and I don't remember who said it, was they would love to see the Enterprise crew sign their names like at the end of Discovery. Do you remember who that was?
Yeah, that was Kevin.
Yeah. I thought that would have been, because when he was saying that, I'm like, oh, I would love to see that. But
yes.
they got their own send off with the poker table, but I would have loved to have done the cursive thing. That would have been a great shout out to that. So that would have been really, really cool. All right, guys, let's go ahead and let's get into the Ready Room. All right, guys, we had an awesome Ready Room here. Jerry Ryan, 7 to 9, executive producer and showrunner Terry Matalas, joined Will Wheaton to break down Star Trek Picard's series finale, The Last Generation. Plus, we get a behind-the-scenes look at the historic episode with the cast and the crew of Star Trek Picard, discover how the season's majestic score came to be, and much more. I want to go into the main interview here, guys, seeing these two together. Now, they didn't come out and say, hey, we're going to have another show, but I found it interesting. Not surprising that Terry is on the last episode, but 7, they didn't really get into it, but there were some great times of them talking about how, one of the things that I thought was really cool was that they spent 6 months building the Enterprise D set and only 2 days filming on it, but the set was saved. He did confirm that. And Terry Matalas got to be the one to direct this. And he said nostalgia didn't set in until the score was put into the scenes. And Haley, I want to go to you on this. You're a musician. I want to get your thoughts of the section that they talked about regarding the score, because the score was amazing throughout this series.
It definitely was. And, I think that harkens back to, sorry, I have a tribble attacking my feet. Apologize. Resituate myself over here.
Yeah, they're troublesome. They're troublesome.
They are, yeah.
Klingons went to war over it. So yeah.
They did. No, I think it's wonderful, like how with all the changes and all the updates to how things are filmed, to how things are written and whatnot, the one thing that hasn't really changed is the music and how music is scored and written. And I think it's wonderful for this last season to really throw in all of these nods to Jerry Goldsmith and to the original score from the TV show, throwing in nods to the movies. Excuse me, ma'am.
I love it.
Throwing in nods to, the films. We get, First Contact a little bit. And again, that is just such a nod that, unless you're someone who was in band, who really appreciates music, you probably notice, like, part of your brain subconsciously notices the music, but you're not going to be really pointed out to it. We have the people who love the ships, they love the character interactions, they love the plot, they love whatever else, and you really kind of pick up on that. But I, again, always notice the music and whatnot, just simply because I was in band for so long. And so I love these nods to everything while also giving us its own theme, and Picard having its own kind of music as well, on top of throwing in all the music from what we already love and these themes that we already really, really love and cherish. So I can only imagine, the emotions, like watching it and filming it. Again, like he said, ow, is not really a thing until the music comes in.
It's an attack tribble.
It is an attack tribble, like so bad.
Watching Haley navigate around an attack tribble is awesome.
Like, it would be emotional, but then, again, without that music, like, if you ever can, like, go on and find, like, watch something without the sounds, without any of the music, and then later go back and watch it with the music, it's incredible how much that really does play into your emotions, whether you are a big fan of music and film or not. It really kind of sets those moods. So I would love it. That'd be so great to be in that room when they record. So
Amy, I wanted to get your thoughts on the Ready Room. What were some of your favorite moments in the interviews or stories or what have you?
Well, I'm gonna go off Haley's coattails there, and yes, agree completely. When you said watch it without the music, it reminded me when I do my deleted scenes on Galaxy Class, and you're watching these deleted scenes because they don't have post-production, and so it's very sterile, and you're like, what am I watching? It's gross. It's weird. And I do want to say, if you can ever get to an event where the orchestra plays the score while watching the movie, I had the wonderful opportunity to go over to London to the Royal Albert Hall and watch Star Trek 09 and Beyond.
Wow.
By Simon Pegg, with the live orchestra playing along. And even though it's background and you're involved with the movie, but because you're there and it's live music, it is so much more enjoyable, intense, emotional. Like, the music really does add. And how they've weaved in original scores and TNG scores so beautifully, that just made Picard season 3 a wonderful Star Trek series. Not just a next gen, but all of Star Trek. Yeah.
Nice. Kyle.
So, without a doubt, the section about the music was very well done. One of the most interesting things I found in that, though, was when they were talking about how normally when they do music, they do it for something that's open. And speaking of attack triples, we might have one pop up on my screen here momentarily, but but he talks about how they were doing this knowing it was the close of the season with this music, and how they made them think differently and take a little bit of a different approach, which I thought was really good. But to me, the highlight of this week's Ready Room, two things actually, was the love for Captain Shaw, Todd Stashwick, and how genuinely you see it from Jerry Ryan and Todd, and how they've even created a word now. We Stashwick the scene.
Yes, Stashwick the scene.
Yeah.
The Stashwick Appreciation Committee.
Yeah. Also, I found it so intriguing and so honoring what Will Wheaton had to say about his emotions with this episode, talking about how he thought he was going to have these feelings of sadness and despair, yet he had this feeling of joy, like he had just closed this book and put this book on the shelf, but he still had this amazing feeling of joy about it. And I thought those were two of the biggest highlights of it. And I have to admit, it was fun watching Terry Metalis do this little dance of trying not to spill anything when they talked about the Q scene. And he's like, we were trying to, just, it started with Q. We're ending it with Q. We just felt like it was completing the circle. We wanted to get to the kind of far point. And, he's just dancing on wanting to say stuff. And you just see kind of, there's a quick shot where it pans over to Jerry Ryan and you see her trying not to laugh and have this huge smile on her face, because they know, and it's got to be just incredibly frustrating for them too, not to be able to say what they really want to say.
The best parts, a lot of the times, regarding the Ready Room, is seeing the behind the scenes stuff. Whether it's the Todd Stashwick stuff and he's hamming it up between scenes, or when Picard's giving that line on the Enterprise D bridge and he's talking to Geordi, and then he picks his head out from the curtain and says, "Yes, Captain." Just little stuff like that was great to see that. If you're listening to this or watching this, you're not watching the Ready Room, you're missing out on a lot, because they do a great job. Will does a great job, of course, with the interviews. He's fun, his passion is there, and he gets a lot out of the guests. But all of the other things that they do with this show, and the behind the scenes, and the credit they give to the people behind the scenes as well, is just wonderful. And that montage they show of the Borg Queen stand-in, while Alice Krieg is the voice, the work that actress had to go through to put on that makeup was really, really cool as well. And I love the moments too, when Jerry Ryan was talking about reuniting with Tuvok in person for that scene, and just seeing those two together in the same scene, and giving her the promotion. That was a great moment for me as well. All right, Haley, yes.
I'm going to end with this. I know we're probably going to maybe talk a little bit more, but given that we have now closed a book on TNG and Picard's love of Shakespeare, and it being Shakespeare's birthday, I would say this. And granted, this doesn't apply to us because we'll see each other again. "And whether we shall meet again, I know not. Therefore, our everlasting farewell take, forever and forever farewell. If we do meet again, why, we shall smile. If not, why then, this parting was made well."
Aww. It's the feels, just like this episode is, and this whole season. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. All right. I have to ask the big question, guys, because Star Trek Picard Season 3 has gotten a lot of buzz from fans all over the world, and from fans of other genres. And I want to ask you, where does Star Trek Picard Season 3 stand in your fandom? Not just within Star Trek, but with how also Star Trek Picard Season 3 handled the return of a legacy cast. And I've mentioned before, I've had this issue with the term fan service because it's been used as a negative term, and I don't like that. I have come across very little bad fan service. Most of the time I've seen fan service and recognized it as fan service, it has been wonderful, and I love it. Give me all the fan service. And I found this more as a tribute to a way of, for future people, for future television and movie productions, if you are going to bring back people that have done this before, this is a course study on how to do it properly and with perfection. So I want to know where you guys feel now that you've had time to think about this, look back at your other fandoms as well and how they have dealt with, bringing back old cast members or movie characters, what have you. And how do you think that Star Trek Picard Season 3 effect will have going forward? Kyle, start with you.
This is an interesting question because I think over the last 5 to 6 years, especially, we have been in a world for people of our age where the nostalgia kick has been huge, and bringing back these kind of things has been a big thing because there's honoring it. There's also marketing it. And I think what I have learned from my experiences now with this, when I look at what Star Wars did compared to what another franchise I'll use that had a really big movie that I think really honored where it came from, was Ghostbusters Afterlife. And I think how it honored everybody, including especially how it honored the late Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
Then I look at this, and I think when we use the term fan service, I look at it a few different ways because of things that I am fans of and how those things work. In this case, I really wish we just get rid of the word fan service because I just don't think it's got a good connotation to it. I think there's a better word we can use. I think the nostalgia and the tribute that was done by Star Trek Picard of not only knowing where it came from, but advancing these characters along was handled beautifully. And I think the thing I've learned from anything of this is if you're going to do something like this, you better have a writer and people involved in the creative side that truly understand and love the material that you're going to do this with. I don't think you had that with Star Wars. They were fans, but I don't think they had that true love. And we didn't get that feeling until somebody like a Dave Filoni and John Favreau came along, or what they did with The Mandalorian and some tributes they've thrown in there. Ghostbusters. It was Ivan Reitman's son who directed that film. Of course he's going to have a love. It's something his father made. And also he's friends with all of those people. And it was something incredibly important to him. Terry Matalas is an absolutely huge fan of Star Trek Generation. It formed him. It shaped him. He loved this. And you can feel that love here. And he let the people who were part of this bring in their own thoughts and their own ideas with us, and he collaborated with them, not just said, this is what I've written. He worked with them. He had to sell them on it. He had to do a little bit of a sell job. He's even said that. But he worked with them and made it happen. And that is why I think in this aspect of it, if you're going to write a masterclass of how to pay tribute to something in entertainment and bring it back, yes, Star Trek Picard Season 3 is the masterclass as it stands right now of paying tribute to something that you loved and bringing it back. And I don't even think it's even close. So I really do think that what we've seen here and the way this season has had people talking is going to be something that is going to be looked at going forward by anybody who's going to try to bring back a much beloved property that has existed, because they're going to realize that, yes, I want to put my own spin on it, but I need to make sure that I am paying understanding of what came from before it. Now, in this case, Picard Season 3 was also the continuation of an established story. Some of these things are not a continuation of established story. Some of them are a new tale on it. But I think even in that case, there's going to be a newfound respect to say, you know what, even if I'm putting my own twist to this, I need to make sure that I respect the people who made this popular in the first place.
Well said, Kyle. Amy, what about you?
Very interesting question. And I relate it to when people ask me of the new Kelvins, which is my favorite. And I answer that question the same way I will this one. I love Beyond. That is great, but it's not great if you don't have Star Trek 09. Into Darkness, whatever. So 09 Beyond, like, I can't say which is better. And so when you're asking me, where does this season fit into my fandom? It's the most memorable. By far, hands down. It has given me the closure to stories that I did not know that I needed, missed, wanted. But it's standing on the shoulders of giants. The Next Generation, 7 seasons and 4 movies. You wouldn't have this wonderful episode with Ensign Rowe unless you had the seasons. So where is it? And the way that the story is told is completely different. So comparing apples to oranges here, it's definitely the most memorable of all of Trek. I will give it that crown. Now, as far as other series or other fandoms, I'm just going to say, I hope that the Orville gets another season to wrap it up, and that we have Seth, who loves Star Trek, and having this experience of watching Picard, as I'm sure he did, could bring these elements to the Orville and give us this complete wrap-up summary closure that we need to have. That's where I want to see we need a 4th season of the Orville.
Amen. Oh, gosh. Yes, please. Haley, what about you?
Yeah, as you guys were sitting here talking, and I was trying to rack my brain of shows that I've watched and like have characters come back or anything like that. And the only thing I can think of is I was a fan of Charmed, the original, not like the new version of it. And at one point, the main characters die. And they're gone and they're not on the show. And then it kind of becomes these 2 sisters that are somehow sisters to the original sister. Anyway, and I wasn't a fan of the change. And then they brought the original sisters back, the original 3 back. And because somehow they didn't die, or I don't remember the story. It's been way too long. But I was excited because they did justice, because the new wasn't quite what I was wanting. And so I think that it's wonderful when you can, as Kyle was saying, bring back these characters and do it from a place of understanding not only the characters, but understanding the people who love these characters and understanding the growth that these characters maybe have had. And also what Amy said of wrapping up things that you didn't know that you needed. And so I think this was so well done as far as giving everything that I didn't know I needed either. And throwing in things that I hadn't probably thought about in years. I didn't think about, Picard and Crusher having relationships like after the show ended. I mean, in our head canons, they're off and the Enterprise continues on and the stories continue on. It's just not on paper. It's not a script. It's not filmed, but it's still there. And so I, to some of this, didn't even think of like, okay, well, what could be going on with this and what could this person character be doing and whatnot. And so I truly appreciate this season for everything that it was and how wonderful it was and how beautiful it was. And, I sometimes complain about fan service and like, do we need all these nods to all these little things? But other times I think if it's done with such a way as this season was done, I don't even think about it. I don't even think that it's fan service. It's just there because it fits in the story. It's not shoehorned into the story. It is the story. It is the thing. It is what these characters would do. It is something this character would say. It is something that, these two characters would do together. It is an interaction that would happen because we have 7 seasons and films to know these characters so well that it just doesn't even seem like fan service because of course they would do that. Of course they would play poker at the end because they would. Like, why wouldn't they? And it's just wonderful. It's just the same as like we've only had 1 season of Strange New Worlds, but of course I'm going to know Pike's going to cook for his crew and sit and have dinner with them. Like, why wouldn't he? That's his character. That's who he is. And so I think it's so wonderful that they did everything that they did with this season. I could not tell you across all of the shows where it sits with me this season. I think this is one of, in a short show with only a few seasons, this is up there for me. This is one of those where I will remember it. I will happily watch season 3 over and over again. I don't know if I could say that about season 1 and 2, but 3, I would happily watch it over again and never get tired of it. Just the same as any episode of TNG or any of the movies. And I think it has, of the 3 seasons, has the most rewatchability. And it has made Picard is 4 on my list as far as rankings of at least Star Trek goes. Fandom overall, there's too many things I couldn't tell you because I enjoy each thing for its own thing and what it is separately. And I don't compare apples to oranges, as Amy was saying.
It's interesting. Some of the stuff that you were saying there, Haley, was making me think about how I was feeling when I watched the end of this. And one of the things that I judge on how good a movie or TV series is rewatchability. And as I'm watching this season play out, whether it was like episode 3, 4, or 5, I kept going, man, I can't wait for season 3 to come out on Blu-ray. And I don't own season 1 and 2 because of the rewatchability factor. I don't find it rewatchable. I may go back sometime, but I'm not urged to do it. But man, I am with this one, even though I know I have it here on Paramount Plus, but I know that I might get some special features on the Blu-ray, fingers crossed. But I was trying to think, where does this stand in my fandom? And where does it stand in, I had to, first of all, is it some of the best Trek I've seen? Yes. Next Gen with the TV series is my favorite. Deep Space Nine's right there. But man, I'm trying to look back. If I go back and rewatch some of my favorite episodes of TNG, where this season would kind of fit there, and I realized I wouldn't be feeling this way about season 3 if it weren't for those episodes. If it weren't for those moments, or like the Row episodes, little things like that. It's because of those we're feeling the way we are now because of our reaction to Picard season 3. And I look of my other fandoms, whether it's Star Wars or G.I. Joe or, what have you. And I look back and I go, I would want to see them do what this show has done for those characters, and I want them to do it right. And this is just the ultimate tribute. I mean, what has been done recently? I got a similar feeling for Star Trek 6. I just watched that recently during my run, like halfway through this season, because that was a good tribute as well. Everyone got to shine, everyone got their moment. But man, this Star Trek Picard season 3, yeah, I know I'm a TNG guy, and there's this recency bias, obviously, and these feelings, and we're feeling all these emotions right now. But man, it was just so damn good. And I don't remember tearing up as much as I had before in any other TV series or movie this much. All right, guys, let's go ahead and end this. This is the Union Federation podcast where we discuss both Star Trek and the Orville here on the Fandom Podcast Network. Butting up with the BQN there with Amy and your wonderful crew. Guys, thank you so much for joining me for this final episode of Star Trek PICARD Union Federation. It's sad to see it go, but boy, was it a send-off. Amy, let's start with you. Where can people find you? What's happening over there on the BQN? You guys have been busy.
Well, yes, we are still probably going to be doing some live episodes of Galaxy Class, especially our Batleth battles, because we've got some, people watching and talking, and so they can cast their.
I love those Batleth battles. I'd like to get in on that one time.
Yeah. So we'll be, gearing that up now that Picard's over. Galaxy Class won't be covering it. We've got a brand new series going on, All Good Things. It's called the Architect series. And our first one we're going to talk about is DC Fontana. So these are the creators and the behind the scenes. So we're going to explore that. I am on Twitter at Miss Amy Nelson. I'm in our Facebook group. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Haley, what about you? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Trekkie01D. I've been kind of quiet lately, but I'm there.
Kyle, where can we find you?
Of course, you can find me all over the place on the Fandom Podcast Network, whether it's here on Union Fed, Culture Clash, all the other great shows. I know we got some fun things planned for the summer. But, too, you can find me on social media at @Kyle_Wagner or on Instagram at @KyleFandom, as I'm going to try to lose a little bit more weight so I can get into a certain shiny pair of pants before too long.
My name is Kevin. You can find me at Spartan_Phoenix on Twitter and Instagram. Find me in the Union Federation Facebook group as well. And you can find me on Facebook. And as Kyle mentioned, in our Orb of Prophecy coming soon, Star Trek Strange New World Season 2 is going to release on June 15th. We got Lower Deck Season 4 to release later this summer. Prodigy Season 2 later in the winter season. Discovery next year, 2024, the final Season 5. Announcement, of course, Star Trek Starfleet Academy series is put in there. And maybe a Star Trek Legacy. We will find out soon. Excited about that. But please, if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you very much. Please subscribe. Please share. fpnet.podbean.com is our audio podcast home as well. Make sure you check us out there. Amy, thank you so much. It was good to see you. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I am excited. Are we going to talk Orville sort of in between this? I think we should get back to that.
Yeah, we can. I think that maybe you're comparing episodes again might be kind of fun because there was some fun stuff in the last season we can mess around with. I would love to touch on Orville. So
All right.
I'm not cleaning the P corner. I'm just saying.
Kyle, thank you as always. Appreciate you.
And I am looking.
So go ahead.
I'm looking forward. I was just gonna say I'm looking forward to what's coming up because we got Stranger Worlds right around the corner and a couple other really fun things I think planned.
Nice. Haley, as always, thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you. How's that tack tribble?
I gotta corral some tribbles. It's not gonna be pretty.
And by the way, I'm jealous of your Journey shirt. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Until next time, to quote Riker, I think we should boldly get the hell out of here. Goodbye, everyone. And until next week, hailing frequencies are now